Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the BNI Fireside Chats. Today, we're here with Alfonzo Martinez with Koala Insulation of Superstition Springs. Welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get into insulation? Let's start with you before we even get into any of the questions that I have. I want to know more about you. Tell me about you.
Okay, so I was in the tech industry for 30 years. I was working corporate research, different firms, working the AI side, video side. And one of the most interesting things happened to me. I was laid off back in April of last year, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise because then I discovered this entire world of franchising, of contracting. So then I went deeper into trying to look for a widget, something that would be of interest to me, a former tech guy. And that's how I came across insulation. I found it really interesting, really compelling, a challenge sometimes. But that's how I got into this, especially because I got into a franchise where my franchisor is extremely good at training, technical services. So we're really, I like to tell people, we're really a startup with 10 years of experience behind us.
That's awesome. We got some experience. Sounds like some crossing experience. Mm-hmm. I was 15 years in a franchise, CPR, cell phone repair. Mm-hmm. I was part of their national franchise. I own a lot of the Phoenix locations for multiple years. And April of last year, I stopped. I finally was able to sell the business off because I was moving into the coaching space, mm-hmm. and ended up coaching one of my clients, and we ended up building a business around his skills. And now I own an HVAC business, mm-hmm. that I had no clue about less than a year ago. Mm-hmm. And here I am, a year later. So we got that in common. So that's pretty cool. So essentially what we do here on this podcast, man, we love to showcase our local business owners right here in Phoenix in the Valley. So we like to cut real quick and go straight into the meat potatoes. I'm going to ask you some questions. It's going to be fast and to the point, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
So why insulation? What inspired you to roll the itchy stuff, man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 3 words. It's really savings, comfort, and responsibility. Savings, because there's many homeowners here in the Valley who are spending a lot of money paying for energy bills, and they don't realize that insulation can help them fix that. Comfort, because how many times have we heard this thing about a homeowner saying, there's that room in my house that is always cold or always hot, right? Or why is my air conditioning always going? Or my heating always going? Or why can I hear everything through the walls? So that's something where insulation can help in all of those cases. And finally, responsibility. When I was doing my research, I realized that for homeowners, their carbon footprint is actually larger on the space of HVAC than it is driving an internal combustion engine car, if you can believe that. So I had to check my numbers again, and if we can do something responsible for the planet, that's it. So those are the 3 reasons.
That's awesome. I love it. Being somebody that's now in the HVAC business that don't do full home service HVAC, mm-hmm. I tell everybody an HVAC company is a great maintenance company. Mm-hmm. I niched it in, and we go straight into mini splits. So that hot room that you're talking about, I fix those on the daily. That's what makes us money. Mm-hmm. And I've been personally looking for about 6 months now for an insulation guy. So maybe you could fill that role, man. That would be awesome. I do a lot of work over in the East Valley. If mm-hmm. that's not a problem, we'd love to be able to get you showcased and get you some business out here as well.
Yes.
All right, let's jump on to question number 2 I had here for you. Well, what kind of services, what kind of insulation? Like, do you do spray foam, roll?
Yes, all of those. So kinds of insulation. The very first thing that we do is we do air sealing so that we can take the building envelope and essentially take your conditioned space and separate the outside from the inside. So air sealing is the first thing that we do. Then we get to the attic, and then we look how much attic insulation you have. What is your depth? And then we take you to the level that you need. Only in some extreme cases, we suggest that it be removed completely if there's some severe decay, like homes from the 70s and 80s, or if there's any infestation or rodents or anything like that. For the most part, we just top it off. And then in addition to that, you mentioned HVAC. It's interesting because insulation is one of three things that are needed: insulation, HVAC, and ventilation. So we do the insulation and ventilation part. So we also install solar attic fans, and the purpose of that is to get the air exchange in your attic to go through. So those are the things that we do. And yes, for example, for other bigger applications for shops, things like that, we do spray foam, we do bats, we also do for crawl spaces, all of those things. So everything insulation, you name it, we do it.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally, like I was telling you before the podcast, got a client, big pole barn, cracks everywhere. You see everything, and now he's getting rodents and everything else in there. He's like, man, I got to get this thing foamed. Mm-hmm. I got to get it air comfort because summer's coming, and this is my man cave. Exactly. I got to keep my motorcycles clean. Let's go. So
sure.
So what was it about Koala? What was it about them that drove you to be a part of their franchise? There's always got to be a sales point. There was something that stood out over anything else.
Well, like I told you, I was in the tech sector. I'm an engineer by training. And interestingly enough, even though I was in the media space and computers and all that, in my undergraduate, the area that really interested me was thermodynamics. So thermodynamics was really close to my heart. It was my favorite subject. So when I started investigating different things, I looked at Koala. And so they had this insulation proposal. And I really wanted to see if they were the real deal, technically, because starting up with something like this, you really need to make sure that you have good technical services, that you have good marketing leads, sources, all of those things. And Koala turned out to check off all those. So they are a really good franchise where they support us all the way through. So that's why I picked Koala, because it's got the technical component, it's got the business component, and they're helping us build everything from the ground up. So that's why I chose Koala.
That's awesome. I like it. And then on, say, like on a pole barn, something like that, what would be like a recommended thickness on a spray foam to be able to insulate something of that size? Because most of them are pretty big. I'm actually wanting to build a pole barn house up in Colorado. I got 10 acres up on top of a mountain, and I want it off grid, and it gets negative 20 there. So
yes, exactly.
So please educate me before I get there.
Okay, very good. So there's two types of spray foam: open cell and closed cell. Open cell it's a little bit porous. It allows some of the humidity to go through. So we don't really recommend it except for certain applications. The substrate really needs to be closed cell because it's structurally very solid. It doesn't allow any moisture through. And normally what we do is we do a hybrid. We do a combination of the two. So for a pole barn like that, what we do is we come in and we seal all the gaps, first of all, using can foam of different types until we got that completely sealed. Then if it's a metal substrate, what we do is we apply 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches of closed cell spray foam. And we use the highest quality. Actually, the vendor is right here. The manufacturer is here in the valley. They're in Mesa. So they provide us with technical services to do that too. So we normally apply about 1.5 to 2 inches of closed cell. That gives you all the structural integrity that you need. But since that is more expensive, instead of going all the way up, then we apply open cell on top of that, another 5.5 inches just to cover over the rafters and make sure that you don't have any thermal seepage. And that's basically what we do. We make sure that we do a hybrid so that it's cost efficient, and it's going to keep you nice and snug.
Okay. And expense, like how expensive is it to say if I just wanted a garage top off, so I can get that rebate from APS. I just got a mini split. I need to get the top off in my garage to kind of seal everything off because there's nothing up there but
right,
dust.
So normally what we do, that's an interesting one. A lot of things that we see here in the valley, especially in older construction, is dust. When we see dust or anything like cellulose that has decayed to the point of dust, we cannot top off on top of that. We need to remove it because at that point, if we add anything on top of that dust, the weight is going to be so much that the drywall is going to buckle and you're going to have a big hole and you're going to have a big problem rebuilding your garage, right? So what we do in those cases is we take that dust out, we remove it, we have industrial vacuums to do all of that for us. And then what we do is we just top it off with a good an R38 is a good 14 inches of fiberglass, which does not settle. That should leave you all set for about 20 years at least. And that's the best way to do something like that.
Okay. And cost?
The cost itself is not expensive. The cost is really, first of all, something that pays off within the next 6 months to a year. You will be, if you evaluate how much it's going to cost you to occupy that space and have it, all the electric bill that you're paying for that, and how much you pay for that installation, it's actually a savings. And you mentioned the APS rebate. So that is one thing that is available. But also the federal government has the 25C tax credit. And I'm sure you've heard about that. But so the 25C tax credit, for people who don't know about it, is essentially up to $1,800 for installation that you can claim if you have an installation-related project like this. The interesting thing is that the homeowner can claim the $1,800 for installation. They can claim another number for HVAC. They can claim another number for solar. And these things are available all the way until the year 2031, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So that's how these projects pay for themselves, really. So it's actually more expensive not to do insulation, the way we see it.
Mm-hmm. And then, like outer walls on garages, I see every single day in my industry, they're not insulated. Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend? Just like the drill in a 1-inch hole at the top and then, inject foam in the channels, or like...
Yes. So foam injection is a possibility. But the thing that we do that is actually cheaper than that, and it's just as successful, is basically a drill and fill. Well, we take each stud bay and we drill up to 3 holes so that if there's any firewalls or anything, we can get to everything. And then we just fill it with our hoses, with cellulose. Sure, you cannot see behind that, but we've got training walls here in our facility in Queen Creek. And we train our crews so that they learn what is the most efficient way to do all of this type of dense packing. So we dense pack with cellulose, which is a lot cheaper than foaming it. And that's the way we do it for garages and for interior walls and homes and things like that. So it's a very cost efficient way of doing it.
On that specifically, what's the cost on a linear foot of that specific? Or do you not? It's not a by foot.
It's by
volume.
Normally, what we try to do with dense packing is we really want to put it at 3.25 pounds per cubic foot, and then depending on how many hours and how much we're going to have to drill, the prices may vary on that. So, but that's how we calculate that normally.
Okay.
And I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but that's kind of how we go from that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty much the questions that I personally had. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we do this podcast simply to spotlight local business owners, and I'm very glad I got to meet you today because you and I could be master power partners.
Absolutely.
Because the only reason they call me is because they don't have you.
Yes.
So if they could have me, and then I can lead them to you, mm-hmm. and they get all that extra rebate, it's kind of a win. This is a power partnership.
Definitely. Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So,
yes.
But yeah, I don't know if you saw online, but we're, me and my business partner, Coach Tom Doherty, we're hosting a big conference right here inside of this building here on March 1st. I'd love to invite you out.
Absolutely.
It's going to be 8 to 4 here at the Forum in Chandler. It's 2301 South Stearman Drive, Chandler, Arizona. Love to have you there. If you want to get tickets, it's bossconferenceaz.com. And if you think you would be a great B2B support, we have vendor booths available anywhere from 500 up to 1,500, depending on what package you would like to do. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thank you for being on with me today and got to learn a little bit about you. We got a 1-to-1 in, and I think we just had a nice little business marriage here that's going to take us both somewhere new.
Definitely. Thank you, Kevin.
I appreciate you for being on. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on episode number 4.